Turn my mic off. All right. All right, I guess it's 10 o'clock. I guess we'll go ahead and we'll call this meeting to order for the redistricting committee. We need to take roll call. Okay.
Yes.
Here.
Here.
Ms. Olson. Ms. Sanders. Here. Harris.
Here.
Ms. Layton. Here. Mr. Lee.
Here. Okay, so we have a quorum. Okay, so we have a quorum, so it is a meeting. Did everybody get a chance to read the minutes from our August 24th meeting? Move to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to public statements and comments from the public. Do we have any comments, concerns? Any questions?
Oh.
I was not aware.
So we have a full quorum. Record will reflect that we have a full quorum. We have one on the Zoom. Mr. Olson. Okay, we are moving right along. Because we have no public statements or comments, we're going to move on to the determination regarding virtual meetings during the COVID-19 pursuant to the government code 54953 subsection E.
So this has been a bit of a moving target over the last couple of years during the pandemic. As most of you probably know, the Brown Act rules around how we could attend meetings were changed during the pandemic, allowing for a lot of flexibility to attend virtually. And the rules have changed again just very recently. And I think that it's appropriate for this body to make a decision about whether or not board members should be able to attend virtually going forward. Of course, we only have one more meeting. And so how important it is to make that determination, I don't know, probably not.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
Are we sure we're only going to have one more meeting, or are we going to have at least one or two more?
Good point. Really depends on how much we get done today and how much we get done on Tuesday. Those
Mr.
are the
Chairman.
two scheduled meetings.
Yes.
I believe that the new legislation says after October, starting November 1st, we have to determine that. So if we do nothing, we can meet either virtually or in person on the 26th, which is Tuesday. But like Harold said, if we have another meeting, then we have to decide which way do we go? Do we give both options?
It's agendized today. I think we should make the determination today. Keep in mind that the determination has to be a finding that there's imminent risk to the attendees' health
Yeah.
if we meet in person. So, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I think that if we are going to require the meeting in person after the end of November, then I think that we need to follow all of the rules. So that means that everybody in this room would need to be wearing a mask throughout the meeting rather than taking it off at your convenience. So I think that, I mean, given what I see right now, I think that it's more appropriate to have that option of a blended meeting, unless everybody is willing to wear their mask for the entire meeting.
I think having blended would be okay. Do I hear and do I?
Can I get clarification on blended, please?
Blended means allowing people to both appear virtually and in person.
Oh, it doesn't mean that some of us will wear masks and some of us don't.
No, if you're
Okay.
attending here, the expectation would be that you follow the public health order,
Okay, thank you
which
for
is
that.
still to mask whether or not you're vaccinated.
Should we come to a determination also if we have a second meeting after Tuesday? Should we put that as tentative? With that?
Let's
tentative
make
meeting?
this determination first, and
Okay.
then
Well,
we
let's-
can
all
talk
right.
about an additional meeting.
Okay.
At a,
Well, do you think we should just go forward and have it blended like it is today?
I'll make that motion that we move forward with blended meetings.
Okay.
Until the commission, the redistricting commission has completed its work.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, yes. A discussion of our communities of interest. Should we go ahead and table the next meeting till after we get done today, at the end of the meeting today? Would that be the best way to approach that?
you mean the discussion of a next
Discussion of the next
meeting?
meeting?
Yeah,
wanna-
I mean, I didn't agendize the discussion of a next meeting, but I do think maybe we should discuss it at the end of today.
That's what I was
Let's
thinking.
see how far we get. There's a
Right.
lot of material to cover, and I think once I show you the tool that we've been working with, you'll understand why it really had to be in person and a visual. There's
Mhm.
not a good way to represent this
Okay,
on
well,
paper,
then we'll
but
just
let's see
table,
how far we
we'll
get.
just table it for now and we'll
Okay.
revisit it at the end of the meeting.
Great.
Okay, all right, we'll go ahead to the discussion of communities of interest.
So I put this here just to encourage anybody from the public who may have come to discuss. We put pamphlets out in the public.
Mhm.
We used online avenues and, physical posting around the county. And I hope that all of you also were encouraging friends and family and
Yeah.
neighbors and whatnot. So I wanted to have this here as a separate item in case there was further discussion either from the board or if you had any input from the public or if any public came. So
All right,
that's
well,
why this is here.
okay, so seeing as how we've already gone through all that, there's nobody here except the board members. We'll just go ahead and we will move on. The introduction of the ESRI mapping tool and draft maps is next on the agenda.
All right, so I will ask Rachel to help me. I can, okay. Oh, okay, got it. Not sure why it's not coming up here, Rachel. Yeah.
I wasn't sure if she's putting it up there. Were you gonna put it on the larger screen or just in the screens? Okay. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I think we can manage
Oh,
to get
great.
it on that bigger
Okay,
screen.
thanks.
That'll be nice for me too. I haven't seen it on anything bigger than my computer screen upstairs, so. All right. Good.
That's so good.
Have Rachel? Yeah, are they showing up on any of your screens? We're seeing her. Yeah.
We're seeing that.
Okay, excellent. So, starting more or less from scratch here. I'm
no,
just
I
going to
can
walk
see
you through
Yeah.
uh, how we are using this tool to bring up Del Norte County specific numbers and specific number of districts, specific deviation, and let's see here. Creating this universe of options for what we can see as we're beginning to create these districts, these maps. And I like to just see everything. So we'll do that. We can fuss around with that later. And we'll name it our meeting map 1. So you'll notice in the bottom here, we have this number 25,140. That's the total number of people we have in Del Norte County, minus the individuals that were taken out by the state that were incarcerated individuals. So we get from that what we need each of our districts to be population wise. 5,028 is the goal. And as we remember, we can be 5% above or below that goal and still be legal within that target. So as you zoom down in here, you'll start to see the census blocks. Go up here. I'm sorry, the block groups. So these are big, these are block groups. And then as you go down further, you see individual blocks. And so each one of these little squiggly lines represents a block. They are, from what I can tell, you know, some of them actually follow actual blocks. We see down here in the birch tract, for example, each of these is a block. Some of them are huge and they probably follow some topography. That's what it looks like to me. Nobody lives in this.
Yeah.
Shockingly, so much of Del Norte County, nobody lives in. I mean, we probably all know that, but we'll see as we start to click around here that there are blocks where absolutely nobody lives. So what I like to do, what I'm going to do first for you guys is to add the existing supervisor district lines. Actually, I think I've already done this. I don't need to do this. I'm going to open this map. And the city district, the city limits. So here you see existing supervisor district. This is 5, this is 3. We have 4 here. We have 2 and 1 here. And then in red, you can see the city limits. So this is why we haven't just been able to tell you how many people there are in District 2 right now. It's because District 2, old District 2, had a line here. That line no longer exists because that block is a different shape than that. So this is the current block. Okay. District 2 right now cuts down the middle of that block, and for obvious reasons, we can't do that this time. You know, the blocks change every decade, so this block may have existed in this configuration last time, probably did. Rachel is telling me to take the fill color out so we can see this better, so thank you. Yes.
Oh.
You can say it out loud.
Yay.
Okay. Rachel's been working with this tool longer than I have, so she's definitely better at it, and I welcome her, her advice. So, this is one illustration of why the boundaries are going to have to change. Now, over the last few days, we've only had this tool for a week, maybe a little bit longer, but we have done some work around trying to get a couple of maps that are as close to current boundaries as possible, that are also compliant with the law. And then to, kind of fool around and see whether or not there are other configurations that might make sense. Go ahead, Gino.
Can you refresh my recollection, I guess, what a block is and why, am I understanding correctly that the boundaries of these districts have to be formed around these blocks?
That's right. So in our last example, oh shoot, I shouldn't have closed it, but we'll go back to it. You'll notice that when I click on a block, I should have at least saved
I guess what determines a block?
the Census Bureau.
The what?
The Census Bureau.
So it's based on
They
the size
change
of, it's based on a, I guess, because the blocks are different sizes, so, right?
How the Census Bureau goes about drawing the blocks, I actually don't know. I don't know if Elisa's still here. She's disappeared.
I don't either. We get them and I don't know how they determine it, but
Yeah.
it comes from the Census Bureau and we get them.
So is there a certain amount of, does each block have the same amount of population?
No, absolutely not.
Is there a legal obligation for us to stick as closely as possible to the blocks that they send us?
So
Or in other words, do they matter?
they absolutely matter. We can't, because the blocks determine the population, we have to stick within those lines. So we can't go outside of those lines.
My understanding is you can't split a block.
You can't split a block.
That's part of the
Contiguous
criteria.
and all of that.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Okay.
not just about contiguousness. It's about knowing how many people are in that block. And the only way we know that there's, for example, 351 people in this block that I just clicked on up here. So 351 total people in this block. We don't have any way of knowing if we were to cut it down into this size, we don't have those numbers.
But each block doesn't have 350 people?
Nope.
Well, it sounds very arbitrary.
Yes.
But
It is.
My-
It is.
My
That's the
under-
way they do it.
my understanding is though, it's formed into smaller blocks. I mean, that way we can, because you've got a lot of different blocks.
So the block is the smallest level,
Right.
but blocks can be different sizes. So this geographically is a pretty big block
That is a block. Okay.
compared to, say, this block.
Yes.
Although this block, if you notice when I clicked on it, there's over 1,000 people in this much smaller block. So how the census picks these blocks is beyond my knowledge, and my apologies for that. Go ahead, Rachel.
Want more clarity on how they block. Basically, the Census Bureau, they have a criteria, okay? And they typically form blocks the way, like in an urban setting, the way we're most familiar around a block of, residences. It's block, it's bordered by streets, right? That's what most familiar with. When you get outside that city, they tend to actually take in not only a street as they use for boundary, but they'll also use railroads, they'll use streams, they define water, they use other physical and cultural features to make that boundary. Anything that they can geographically use boundary that is easily identifiable, they'll utilize. However, they have been known to also use legal boundaries on occasion, but typically they kind of follow a sequence. Geographic. Does that make sense?
And in some places, we can see that, like down here, it looks like this block follows Elk Creek and then Elk Valley Road. I don't know what this is, but, to Rachel's point, I'm sure there's some methodology here. I just,
So I
beyond
think,
kind of being able to intuit.
I
I
think
don't
if
know
I
that.
understand correctly, this is what we've been given and we have to work with. what we've
That's
been
right.
given. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you for clarifying that.
I mean, it's a lot, it's not as if there aren't a lot of ways in which you could click around this map and make different configurations. I don't think there's endless ways because of course we're still constrained by things like contiguousness and total population. We don't want to make it look gerrymandered, although I think gerrymandering would be difficult.
I have a
We try.
question.
Go ahead.
Do any of these blocks have more than the 5,000 roughly
No.
population that we're looking for?
No, I think the biggest blocks that I saw, and this is just kind of guessing, that one that I clicked on here is one of the bigger ones with 1,000 people in it. That's a big block and it's kind of a pain actually. Having smaller blocks makes it easier to say, this district needs a couple hundred more people. Let's get them in here.
A follow on, any of the blocks, does it include the what do you call it, communities of interest in information?
Not necessarily. The information that we're given is about a race and ethnicity. And so there are numbers, I didn't put them in here, but for all of the census data, census doesn't track communities of interest. It tracks race and ethnicity. So we can get those numbers here. With communities of interest, that's why we're trying to get the public to tell us what unique characteristics of your community may we need to know, but we don't know from the census numbers. So far we haven't gotten that feedback. But I think Rachel said that even in larger counties, they're not getting a ton of feedback on communities of interest.
My research has shown that, for example, Colorado County is one of I can watch net, and they're of course pretty populated, probably Tahoe, Placerville, their downs, But, so they have a pretty huge population, correct? They've only gotten 4 other things.
Wow.
They only have 4 public alternatives. Yeah, it's been difficult. Weigh in on the topic.
So this was the first map that was a collaboration. I think me and Rachel and Joel tried to get as close to the current boundaries as possible. And you'll see that it still looks different. This border along here, this ends up being a really big block, but with no population. You can kind of see in here where the lines from previously don't follow the lines from now. But I think functionally, while some folks will find themselves in a different district,
Yeah, it's looking.
it's pretty similar.
So
Yeah.
can I have a question then, please? So it looks like District 3 got cut back and you said there's unpopulated area, but what is that area consist of? Yeah,
This area,
yeah, all the area that was cut out. What is it?
I don't know, I think. Anybody else?
The only reason I'm asking,
Oh, bears
I-
with
If
her.
you get close to the border, you had Killen, and you, or Sunstar.
Sunstar, yeah,
And you had,
that's kind of up
had a
here.
few, right at the border, but
Yeah.
let's see, we're further south.
Yeah, I
And
think-
I don't think there's anyone over there.
I'm not talking about people though, because if we're talking about communities of interest,
Yeah.
within my community of interest, which I happen to be District 3, does include the forest, the waters, the surrounding area. So that's why I'm asking.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that Lupe, I don't, I think we should come,
Maybe I
we
was
should
just gonna say,
continue
maybe I
talking
can
about
look
that.
into it a little bit more.
Okay,
And I
absolutely.
guess that brings me to another comment as well, and that is maybe the reason I haven't asked so much for communities of interest is because I did want to see what our changes were being, what we were speculating. And I think that also may make a difference in input.
Yeah.
So,
So I want to be very clear. I created a few maps because I had this fun tool to play with
Oh,
and I
yeah.
got to spend some hours with it. I in no way want to suggest that these are, my
Oh, no.
recommendations. I'm just showing you the few that I was able to create that were compliant with total
Oh, thank you.
population. And, just as a starting point for the group. Because I'll be honest, it's actually pretty tedious to create these maps because the blocks can get very, very small.
Mhm.
And, as you saw, some blocks have 1,000, some have 300, some have 30. You might think, you'll be cruising along thinking you're going to create this great map, and then all of a sudden you click on a block and it blows your numbers all out of proportion. So I wanted to give some examples, but I also want to give plenty of time for you guys to feel like you've been able to play around with it too. I would love to just give everybody a license to this technology. It's very expensive and we didn't have the funds to do that as a county. And so, what we're doing instead is to have you all at this public meeting and, I'm committed to spending as much time as reasonable within reason. I'm willing to spend a lot of time helping you guys understand the tool, play with the tool, create different maps, all of that. And if we need extra meetings for it, we have the ability, I think, to do that. It would have to be pretty quick because November 9th is when the Board of Supervisors is meeting. The minimum amount of time before that meeting that we would have to put maps into the public sphere, draft maps, is 7 days ahead. And I sure would like to get them out to the public more than 7 days ahead of that initial November 9th discussion at the board. So Gino's looking at his mind calendar and thinking it doesn't give us much time to do
No.
another meeting beyond the 26th. So
Could you do an overlay of the current district boundaries?
this is an overlay.
These are current?
So here's the overlay. This is District 5 here. See where my cursor is? I can make this overlay a little bit more.
Could you make it a different color even?
Yeah, I'll try to make it more. Hold on, I know how to do this. Okay, contents. So, okay. So I can make the border weight greater. Oh, this fill color should be nothing. I think that helps. And then do you want it to be a different color? The border
That
color?
would help, maybe red.
The
There's red
city
already in there,
limits-
maybe a blue or something.
Or anything.
That's the fill colors.
No color. Okay. I honestly think that black tends to be best. Yeah, this isn't great.
Yeah, I think black, you're right. The black.
You got a lot of black in there. though.
Yeah.
Something like
Okay, so yeah, there we go. Maybe if we scroll out, we can see this a little bit better. This is D5. What do you think, streets? Okay. Oh, yeah, that's nice. Okay, so as we scroll out, we can see it better here. And as we scroll in, we can see where there's, this is some significant change, although I don't think there's a lot of people in here either.
Well, I have a question.
Go ahead.
If nearly nobody is living in the middle of the woods, what is the benefit of changing the boundary if it's not reaching the goal?
What boundary are you talking about?
The boundary that you just
Between District 3 and District 5.
It's not about whether or not there's a benefit, it's about whether or not it's possible to keep this boundary. So here,
Oh, I see.
this is our block.
Okay.
This is our current boundary. Current boundary doesn't exist.
Got it.
Yeah. So it's not about benefit of changing here, it's about what's possible. And so, as I said, this map was the closest we could do. I'm not saying it's the closest. I'm just saying, kind of fussing around, there's some places here where it looks like a significant change, but the reason for it is this is your block.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't.
So I want to show you. What do you guys want to do from here? I have a couple other maps I could show you, but
I have a question. You've played with this and you've got these, how many maps have you got to where we have met the number per district as close as possible? Is there only one map or are there two maps?
I have 5.
You have 5 maps.
One of them I don't like very much. One of them
I-
is kind of,
I think
Wild.
maybe if we looked at the 5 maps, because you've actually, you're the one who's done the research on it to get this to this point. And for us to sit here and use these, try and play around with these maps at this point, I think would be a little bit of a exercise of futility because we don't have the time for it. And I was thinking, she has 5 maps. We could look at the 5 maps and then we can discuss each map.
I would look at it a little different. We could start with that, but I think, especially in the city, especially with 1 and 2, I think, in my opinion, there could be some
Yeah,
changes there.
yeah.
so let's look at map 2.
Well, between 1 and 2.
Right, that's,
And actually 4, because, and I get we're trying to go toward the existing, but some of it just doesn't make sense.
I'm not necessarily,
Yeah,
that's up to
Not
you guys.
you,
and I think
just-
there's-
No, it's-
Just
yeah.
like the Pacific Avenue boundary.
Can you get it by street name? Can you get that close?
Yes, I can. We can go down to that level.
Like,
So what is this? This is the one I don't like. Map 3, by the way, my first map to show how we could keep it as similar as it is now. Personally, I feel like if it's going to change anyways, then yeah, let's address some funky issues,
Yeah,
right? Like,
Well,
that's
if-
just to show it can't stay the same.
Right. Well, if we have to address the issues of the lines being changed, we might as well look at all of it to try and, if we're going to do an effective job here.
I think so too. So this map, I created to show that it was possible to have the city within one district, because I think that's something to consider, whether or not the city should be in one district versus the current 2. And that's the only real change here. I mean, other things had to change to accommodate that, but that's the major difference between this map 3 and my map 1.
And the numbers still stay pretty close to the same.
Yeah, all of these are within the legal range. So here you can see the target, the deviation.
Mhm.
I thought,
2 has a little bit more than 4, but
I thought the city had more like 6,000. I didn't realize they had 5,000.
well, they had the prison. Take the prison out, that's the
one thing
1,800,
on
that number.
yep, that's right.
Okay, there you go.
Can you zoom back in on this map near the city there in the center? Yeah, okay. Perfect. We're trying to see the street markers.
Yeah, so-
Which area is which?
The tool is fun. It's not perfect. So I don't know how to make it so that we can see these more clearly. You want me to zoom in more?
What were the blocks there?
It's down.
Let's see. Yeah, but then it just goes to the fill color.
Social. I did the city. So this is.
Border transparency.
This is the current.
Okay, that's which one. What I can tell, that's not online. That's the best I could find.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what happened.
You can hide.
If we're just focusing on District 1.
City.
Huh.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
So the orange is city, is that right?
Yeah. It looks like what she's doing right now.
Good or bad?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay, that is nicer. All right. I told you guys this was gonna take a little bit of time today.
The ones where the boundaries get split.
That's nice.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for that little interlude. I see somebody's trying to chat with us. Is that something I can check, Rachel?
This is the other commission.
Oh, what does the, oh, okay.
What does the red line represent?
I think that's a new District 1, is what she's suggesting.
Right,
Yeah.
so that's right. So this is the new, this would be an option where District 1 and the city limits are not exactly, because it doesn't work that way. We don't have that option because of the way that the blocks are. But at least all of the city is in one district, whereas now it's in two districts. Did you guys have some discussion over there about? You should share.
I was sharing, so a couple of my parents, I work at Best Maxwell, but I live in the Ocean View tract. But they couldn't figure out why they live, so they live in that weird county, not city and surrounded by city.
Over here?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was just really odd for them. They're like, wait a second, why, what is, this makes no sense. It did make sense to them why that was carved out, and what, and they suggested if we could get that carve out to go away, they would appreciate that.
Well, that's city limits though.
No, above that. So Pacific to along El Dorado. Wait, where are you? Slide.
You're talking about the Filkins track out there?
No, along El Dorado.
Yeah,
So
that,
to
yeah.
the left of where the city
That's
carve out
Oh,
Filkins.
is.
it's here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And just to the, isn't it to the left of that, or that other, along
Mhm. That's-
Inyo to the Pacific, I believe is currently
Yes,
a different district.
yes, one side.
It's,
Right.
this
Yeah.
is one over here.
Right.
No, that's
That's
two
two.
I'm sorry,
over
two
there.
over
Two,
here.
'cause I
Yeah.
know-
Two, that's one.
And so,
And so they wanted to be included in the Pacific Ocean over piece of whatever district that's drawn to.
Two.
me.
they want to be in two.
Yeah.
And where are they exactly? Are they kind of, they're in
Yeah,
here?
along El Dorado, which
Uh-huh.
I think is that darker line, there, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's a split now, isn't it?
Yes.
it is.
It's, I think the split right now is, yep. it's-
Right there. Yeah,
El
it's El
Dorado,
Dorado.
Yep.
So
And
the
so all
right
of
is
this
one
is
and the
two.
left is two.
And they're on the right, or
No,
the east side of El Dorado.
they're on the ocean side of El Dorado.
Yeah.
The west side.
They're on the east and they want to be included on the west side. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the remapping is.
So this.
So this would.
What is their- what is their
what they would-
address?
What they would want.
What is their address now?
I'm not gonna give it exactly, Jerry.
I mean, is it the corner of Childs and El Dorado?
They,
or-
they weren't even willing to come to a meeting to say it publicly.
This represents a lot of population.
Mhm.
And so,
That makes sense.
you know, I get it. functionally, it feels like this whole thing is kind of the city, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's too much population.
Yeah.
And so we can fuss around some and sort of, I think my next map does that a little bit, but, and I agree with you. This neighborhood feels like one neighborhood to me, and to have it split in half, isn't necessarily great. But
They are in the county.
right.
Yes.
So, and
Right.
that's, yes,
Hmm.
yes.
And that's what they
I'm
kind of
I'm in
wanted
that
to.
sort of general area, so, yes, I understand.
So, just to be clear, the map that we're looking at now is the mostly city limits. map.
That's right.
Okay.
That's
So
right.
can we label it that or something just to keep the 5 of them for map 1 or some label, I don't care. But
Absolutely.
If we're gonna talk about going back, this is how we're gonna. Map 3.
It's map 3, and so
That's fine.
I'll,
It can stay map 3.
okay.
Yeah.
I only have 5. 2, I'm just gonna erase 2.
Well, you've done the staff work.
Yeah.
I don't want to do staff work.
It wasn't, it
Yeah.
didn't add to the discussion. So I'll show you the 4 that I think add to the discussion. So that was 3, and we're gonna open up 4. I think maybe this one was kind of getting at some of the complications in the city to see if we could, I don't know, make 1 and 2 represent, yeah, I think I tried, but this block right here, if I were to try to make all of this District 1 so that this neighborhood stayed together, there's just too many people here.
Could you, below the purple, I know that's quite a large block, could you remove that? I don't know how that affects purple. or-
Yeah, so let's,
I don't know, just,
in other words, make it, here, we'll see what it.
you'd
how many
have to
people-
take it away from somewhere else.
Yeah, you'd have to take it away from somewhere else. So let's just see how many people are in this. I think this is probably more than 1 block.
Where does it say how many? Or-
It says how many when I take it away, and I wasn't watching, so let me, hold on. Okay, so this is in District 1, and so this District 1 number is gonna change here. About 200, 250 people.
And then you need everything in between.
So if we took it away from 1, that's one thing, but if we then give it to either 4 or 5, which are contiguous, those might go over, right? So it's not just about taking away, it's
Right.
about giving back. So this, let's see, this was kind of my attempt to address some of those issues in the city. And I don't mean the city proper, city limits, city, how we all kind of, how I think about it. Maybe not all of us, but go ahead, Timur. Extends here. I kind of think that this, I don't know how people feel about the beach community versus not beach community, but beachfront, yes. Beachfront. Okay. But, this is compliant. I'm going to show you one other one that I think it's going to give us an opportunity to talk a little bit about what Lupe brought up earlier, which is, the importance of the forest, even if it doesn't have population, or, the unpopulated areas, even if what we're focused on is census data. This is my last map. And then, we will have spent only 45 minutes and gotten a lot done. We have more time and we can start kind of, I'll take the lead from you guys from here. So this map is numbers compliant. It incorporates all of this all of this area. District 3 becomes huge.
Where's 5?
Yeah.
5 is,
Oh, in the middle.
5 is this adorable little thing.
Wow, that's a big change.
Yeah,
Big
it's
change.
huge.
I wanted to give you one example of a big change. This year, we still have District 1 city limits. District 2 doesn't change that much. District 4 adds some of Smith River. So add some of this farmland. I kind of think of this as farming community, and this is just my opinion.
Can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
Do you have the cities of Smith River and Fort Dick? Can you add those?
They're here, actually.
Okay, but they're not like the city, we can't, because it looks like.
No, they're just census designated places. They're not incorporated, so
Right,
there's no
right.
limit.
But they might be communities of interest. is what I'm
Absolutely.
getting at.
Yeah. And
Like
I
Klamath.
did try in all of these to keep,
Yeah.
there were some, we talked about splitting, Gasky and Hayuchi either in half, because the road goes through both of them. Roads are good lines, good bright lines, but I think both of those communities feel
Attached.
Yeah. I don't live there, but I imagine that they wouldn't necessarily want to be split in half. So to the best of our ability, as we were thinking about, what these different maps look like, keeping Klamath all as one, keeping Birch Ocean View mostly as one. It's not a census designated place, but it's a community, So District 5 gets all of its population from Birch Ocean View here.
Can we look a little closer at the Smith River area?
Yeah.
In the scenario, just zoom in a little bit more so we can see the detail.
One thing I want to say about this is that the tribal lands are all in District 3 in this map. That doesn't mean that tribal population is all in this. But it's interesting to think about that, whether or not that's, potentially could, I don't know what the implications of that are. So I'm interested in people's opinions about that.
I like
I
that.
would think it has the potential to make the tribal voices stronger.
That's right.
I like it.
So Smith River, so this line is just 101 here. And so, the town site of Smith River is in 4. But these folks along here,
3.
aren't 5.
Mhm.
So I don't know how, the folks that live up at Hawanket Village and Resort.
Along what resort, I'm sorry?
Old Chippashore.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. That makes more sense.
Agaway landmarks
So,
too.
do they feel like there's Smith River and we're splitting these 2 communities? I don't know.
Oh, that might be a little tough.
But
Mm.
we're putting
Like
tribal
numbers.
communities together, which, as Tamara said, may give them more voice. So, yeah, this is my last map. I think, I showed you 4. I think I like 3 of them, 1, 3, and 5, I think are the 3 that are kind of,
Can we see the numbers on this one? Can you bring
Oh,
up
yeah.
the numbers?
of course. So we can also look at, let's look at some additional numbers. Rachel, can you help me with that? It's demographics, right? I wanted to see what this, how this affected tribal population. But I just want to see more of it. So let's add. But if you do want to do more. The little pie chart thing.
Wow. Yeah, that is.
Oh.
How does? Oh, jeez, that was quick.
Okay, no problem. I can scroll across this, no problem. Okay. So here's the numbers down here. Is this working for you guys as far as seeing? What's what?
That's not really right?
Can you bring up, I didn't,
Keep in mind.
What are you looking for,
any
Karen?
field that has the number 18 in the field name, that's referring to voting population. So
Say that
the
one.
difference there.
I'm
So
sorry,
when
could you repeat
When
that?
you see a field name that says, BA, AI, AH, NH, but no 18, that's the entire population in that district. Then when you see the 18 next to it, it's only that population 18 and above. Does that make sense?
we're seeing 1 through 4, I think. I don't think we're seeing 5. The fifth district.
Oh, sorry. Yep. Okay, so just so we're clear here, this is what's tracked by the census. White, Black or African American, Asian. No, I'm sorry. This is American Indian or Alaskan Native. This is Asian. This is Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, other, and 2+, people who identify with 2 or more races. And then Hispanic. And then as she said, this is all the same categories, just voting age. Can you
Are
scroll
they-
to the left a little?
Yeah, are the districts in order? Are they like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Yeah, on the
Okay,
chart.
on the chart. Okay, thanks.
They are.
Okay,
Is this what you
thanks.
mean?
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you.
So unassigned is this first one. Why do we have 91 people in an unassigned district? That's
What
problematic.
block's missing?
I'll fix it. Don't worry.
When do questions of gerrymandering come up? Like, I mean, somebody said like this latest map would give the tribes more power. Is that raise the issue of whether the maps are being created for some type of political power, or is there more
I think
factors in that?
I think it raises the question, but I don't think that the numbers actually reflect that possibility here. You know, I think that if you had the ability to give a district a majority, almost guaranteeing that they're going to vote in one way, then that's when you really end up packing or cracking a district to say, we're going to give you a majority. We live in a community that's majority white. And so looking here, I don't see this actually giving anybody, anybody a majority. And also, there's not necessarily.
And doesn't it have to do anyway with where they've already lived? I mean, they've chosen to live in a particular area, and so you can't, if they're in an area, how are you going to split that one particular area that they live in?
Well, this makes radical splits to the existing map, so I'm not sure that answers the question. Right? I mean, because this goes across existing district lines, and
Yeah.
where people have been living for.
Okay, where are you looking at? Could you please explain that to me? Like right on 101 between 4 and 3, or what district are you talking about?
District 3,
Yeah,
Okay.
District 3.
Compared to
District
the
3.
existing District 3.
Okay.
Well,
Or District 3 versus the existing District 5.
to me, if on this last map, you're breaking up Smith River, and that has always been a unit, and now you're splitting it, and I would not favor that at all.
When you're.
The river has always been the division between 3 and 4, from 101 going west.
I mean, like I said, this is just ideas.
I do agree with Jerry that in terms of Keeping the communities of interest together.
Yeah.
That,
So would-
that having the river be a boundary is a better choice for keeping communities of interest together than
Then the highway and that,
Highway 101 is.
And you're saying that the river on both sides of the river keeps the community
that's
together?
three, that's always split 3 and 4.
With,
Always, yeah.
oh,
I mean,
okay,
as long
so
as anybody can remember.
I'm sorry, there was too many people talking for me to think about this. So I'm gonna ask again. The river, you're saying is the split and it doesn't include both sides of the river. That's the split. You have like the north bank and the south bank,
Correct.
and they're separate.
Well, that North Bank and South Bank, that might be different once you get east of 101. But I'm just talking Smith River itself, between Fort Dick and Smith River. The split has always been the river. And that's homogeneous to the area, I would think.
I mean, sure, except that
Yeah.
it hasn't always been split all the way down. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's only always been split here.
And I also think that that split right there, if you're talking about where the church is and then you go down over there by Tetson's,
But
then, okay, so that's totally a different, if you're splitting it there and then you have the, you know, a few houses on this side and then the 101. See, I don't see where that's a big difference where the 101 is and the river. That housing tract right there.
so you're talking, are you talking for District 3 or District 4?
Well, I'm just asking for clarification purposes now because I guess you're saying that the 101 is not a good split, but I don't know where
Well,
you're
it's from
starting the
Dr. Fine.
101 at.
Well, I think from Dr. Fine's bridge downriver is the split. That's where it's always been.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
But
gotcha.
going the other way, going toward where you are, that's been in 3 from both side North Bank, South Bank roads. They've been pretty much all in 3.
North Bank, South Bank, yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay,
And then after the bridge, the 101 creates the new split or the same split?
from the bridge north,
From the
Dr.
bridge, yeah, bridge north towards Brookings.
then that goes back into 3. You're in 3, once you get over Dr. Fine's bridge
And to the right,
to the right, you're in 3.
okay,
And Fred Haight Drive is all in 3. So that's north of the river. Is that what that one is there? Autumn?
This is,
That's the first map.
no, this is the second map.
Oh, the
where
second map,
The
okay.
city is in this, is all in District 1.
Can we go along the 101? I always wondered why. Well, let's see, it's parallel, I think, to Parkway, and there were people that, I think that's over where you're at. It always didn't make
Is
sense.
that in District 4?
Yeah, the split between, I think, 4 and 5. It's like,
Right
if
there.
you're on Malone Road, on the east end of Malone Road, I think you're in 5, and then, you know, a quarter of the mile down the road, you're in 4.
Because I think sometimes the 101 is a good breaking point, because sometimes it goes beyond it to the west,
mhm,
and it's not, it in landmass, maybe it's contiguous, but in neighborhoods, it isn't at all.
mhm.
Right. Okay.
And I'm sure it's a numbers game, you know, that we have to make sure there's enough numbers, but that always was an interesting one.
Right. Okay, I'm just gonna see if we can make it easier to see. Try to make these full. There. Okay, so. Oh, this is one here.
Yeah.
Right here.
We'll spread it on Railroad Avenue, I think they said.
Is that right?
I think
Now,
that
Gino, is that, well, she just set it up there. Is that Malone Road?
I might be in the wrong side.
You're Jordan, correct? So that's got to be Malone Road. Is that the split that you're talking about?
Yes, I think in the last meeting, we just mentioned that it goes along railroad right away. Or
Well,
part of
there's
it
a
does.
railroad right away.
Yeah, here's railroad here.
Right.
Yeah.
So
That goes to
I
Elk
feel like
Valley.
this did change some. Help me out here.
Yeah.
So you
That's
have
a
a little bit
way.
between 101, see that, I think that's District 5, where it says
Right.
Downing Street. Yeah, that little pie shape right there.
This thing?
It is,
Ah, okay.
yes, that's what
Okay.
I'm talking about. It just-
Well, Blackwell.
But it's still a community. It's just sort of funny how it's,
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of population in here, so we can
Right,
probably
Probably.
this a little bit. If
Collins
we
Road.
make this 4 instead of 5. Let's see, so that was 1 block. And it looks like we're still okay. And then,
so we may need to add something little on 5 somewhere else, but we're still within.
not necessarily.
you're
I
within
mean,
five-
We're
you're
still
in-
within.
You're within
Still
the
within the
5%
market,
target.
so-
Deviation.
Yeah.
To me, that's cleaner and it's,
Yeah.
That's a very clean.
You're on the west side of Parkway. You're good. You're over here.
Okay.
Yeah, I like
Now,
that.
that's 4.
That's 4.
Okay.
And so, if this is a community of interest or a neighborhood or whatever, and 101 is a better
Yeah, that-
target line, I agree with that.
because in some of those areas you can only get from Lake Earl. So,
Yeah.
so you can't even get from 101 to that side
Right,
in some of those areas.
okay. Well, that was a good
I believe, is
suggestion.
that correct?
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, I like that. Makes it a lot cleaner.
I think that's what she was talking about too.
So I guess my question is, is there appetite to think about, massive changes, or do we want to try to keep things as close to current configuration as possible? And maybe that's too big of a question for today. Maybe you guys want to think about that. But,
My thinking on
My,
it,
my preference would be to keep Smith River as a whole.
Right.
And not have 101 divided, to keep the boundary between Fort Dick and Smith River, from Dr. Fine Bridge to the west be the divider, the river be the divider from Dr. Fine West. And then I like that the city in your map where you have the city mostly in one district.
Yeah.
And as you said, it can't all be in one district, but to keep the city of Crescent City mostly in one area, I think makes sense. I like the recommendation that Karen made.
Yeah.
I think that was an odd area and it looks better the way it is now. I like the idea of having 2 county supervisors, both of them representing forest land. Because I think at the state level, that makes our voice stronger.
I see that there's a 3 in the chat bubble. I wonder if any of those are any of who that is. Because I would be
Now there's
interested in
4.
possibly
Oh,
taking
God, I'm sorry.
2 or 3 of these maps and sharing them with our
Yeah,
communities.
I would as well.
Oh, can't be
Okay.
heard.
Sure. Okay, so Karen has asked, if I understand correctly, we as individual committee members cannot sign and use the Evergreen Mapping Program ourselves. That's true, Karen. I wish that you could. Unfortunately, as I explained before, this license it was very expensive, and having everybody on the committee get a license would have been $100,000. So that was out of the question. And then,
Is there a way we can get copies of it. It's hard to digest it just sitting here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know, it really is, and I apologize for that. I think that Rachel had some good ideas, and we can work on trying to share the maps that we create here with you guys so that you can kind of look at them more, look at them more over the next few days, get kind of a sense of, okay, here's where the boundaries are gonna be different because of the blocks. Brainstorm a little bit so that when we come back on Tuesday night, if you have more ideas, that's great. We can keep fussing with the maps. And I think that Rachel, did we decide if they wanted to see a few maps, we could, PDF them.
If they
That's
could
what I would
include
like to
the
have.
boundaries, if the
If you could print
boundaries
this
could
to
include the
PDF.
street names, that would be extremely helpful.
Yeah, we were looking at, maybe Elisa actually has some examples here.
Take whatever they come up with today, put it on like a book and send it out to them to review it. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, so we were looking at, Rachel created these as kind of.
All right, so basically what I have
examples.
here is what I anticipate being a map book, so you guys will present forward to the board. Basically what I have is an overview map of the entire county.
Okay,
Okay, so that would be the first page, just at a glance, basically, okay? The second page would be, every page after that would be the individual districts as you draw them. Okay, don't infer anything by what you see here, this is just an example.
Right.
Okay, so this is not a recommendation. So District 1, District 2, they each have their own dedicated
Right.
sections, right? So you can clearly see.
what we're dealing with, yeah.
Yeah, the one that where you just made the changes to it. Okay. So whatever you come up with today, I can. put
Upside down.
In this book. And send it out.
Rachel, upside down.
Upside down, sorry.
There you go.
Sorry.
All right.
Hey, I can read upside down. Why can't you? So anyway, that's kind of what I anticipate. So however many alternatives you come up with, there would be a separate alternative book.
For each.
You decide you want to present it to the board. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Are
And
you
then
gonna
when
send
would those
those?
be available?
Yeah, are you gonna send those out to us?
I will send them out with your recommendation on it. not mine.
Okay, yeah, that's what we meant.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
Right.
And then probably, and then at that point, once they are adopted by the board and the map.
Well-
they'll obviously posted on the website, then they can website for 10 years. They would also be interactive on our current website, replacing our current districts once, obviously they're officially replaced.
Well, our work could all be for naught if the board says, I don't like that,
Right.
period.
Right, we'll put the draft map up, we'll put the public stuff on it, whatever you guys come up with for your draft alternatives, will be on the website. In
Right.
like a PDF one, I'm not gonna put it out for them to interact with it.
How many alternative maps do we need to present to the board?
Yeah, I know that Humboldt has 3.
Like I said, Eldorado may only have 4,
Yeah.
they're much bigger population.
Yeah.
Well,
I
we
don't
may,
know if you're gonna find because they're not ultra north much, you might only end up coming up with
Harold,
maybe
we may not all agree, and so we might have a minority map sent to the board. So, so I mean, that,
I'll agree on one,
yeah,
Anything's possible.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it just,
So just to be clear, I think your recommendation for, 2 or 3 maps, those are going to be the draft maps that then get sent out to the public and
Right.
then to the board. I don't think there's any harm in having a few maps.
no.
Isn't it our responsibility to make a recommendation to the board?
Of one map?
Yeah.
No. I think it's your responsibility to make a recommendation of,
We give them the
you
options and
don't
then they make the
have to
final
make it
decision.
one. You don't have to come to a consensus. I think there's an expectation that you'll have 2 or more that go to the public and then to the board, and then they make the final decision. I think
we see my,
that's the expectation.
Yeah.
I did not that you pick the map and then recommend that map to them, but that you pick a few maps or a couple maps as options.
Well-
And that's what goes to the board and they get to pick. Okay.
My thought is that is different than cameras, and I think the city needs to be split into two. It's the only incorporated city in the county, and then you get two representatives versus one for issues that may come up. It's always been two. Going back as far as I can remember, voting. So in fact, I'm going to stick with that for myself. So I may be a minority when it comes to the maps in that instance.
Well, that was the same philosophy somebody voiced earlier with the county having two representatives for the forest and its influence upon the state. So you're kind of soliciting the same type of idea is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And
Do you agree
then,
with that?
yeah, and then the other question too that I wanted to ask is, that wasn't a question. Here's my question. Are we allowed to meet with our supervisor and get some input, or if we have questions, or is that allowed?
You're
What
an
do you mean?
individual.
I mean, you're always
Chat
allowed
with
to
our
meet with your
supervisor.
If we want
supervisor.
to chat with the supervisor and had, just chat with them about what is going on here, what they might feel, what I feel,
Well, they appointed us, so therefore I would assume you could talk to them as an individual. I don't,
Yeah, I mean, you can always talk to your supervisor as an individual.
Okay.
I think that what's going to be most helpful to the board is to have, some cohesive recommendations coming out of this group, and they don't have to be the same. If somebody here thinks that the city should be 2 districts instead of 1, and somebody else thinks it should be 1 district instead of 2, we can afford to put several ideas forward. And if we can explain to the board, why we thought these 3 maps, for example, were all pretty good ideas for these different reasons, then it gives them the opportunity to then say, okay, as a 5-member decision-making body, we agree on this one.
I do have a question. On the maps we're getting, are you going to have the breakdown of the numbers that we're seeing at the bottom of the screen? I guess Rachel.
Rachel?
When you give us the maps, are you going to be able to also have the numbers at the bottom of the screen as a part of that? Yeah,
Okay, so what I have is
I don't see it.
as an example, on the first one, in the overview, I have the total population breakdown of every district, how you guys divvy them up. Okay, your proposal.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Mhm. It doesn't give us the blocks, but it gives us the
The
district.
totals and the deviation.
Now, on each district, you have to be a little bit, you have the total population, but you'll also see the target population, which is 5,028. You'll have your assigned population, which is the number you divvied up, that you put in there. And then it'll tell you the population difference between the target and your population, your assigned, and then the percent difference if you're within the deviation. Understood?
But it
Yes.
won't have the racial breakdown.
No,
Okay.
we can give you that information separately. It just won't be, I mean, I think unless you want to put that on here, but there's not a lot of room to work.
Yeah.
I'd say
Well,
something
can you-
separate is fine.
No,
Yeah,
that's
a
fine.
separate
I was
piece
gonna
of
say, if
paper.
you could
Yeah.
send us the demographics separately, that would be great. Just say, hey, for map whatever.
And then I'm really curious if it shows, oh, it does show street names. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, once you get down to the actual district
Mhm.
level, you'll be able to see your neighborhoods, your communities a lot better. When you're at this level,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
No.
There is no way in the world I can be that good. and give you that information. But if
The
you
map-
want somebody who can.
If the map were huge. Yeah, okay. All right, so it's 11:15. I said we'd be here for a couple of hours. I'm certainly willing to go for longer. I'm also willing to entertain maybe some suggestions for a few maps that you guys would like to see in greater detail. My plan was to have the board vote on draft maps that would be distributed to the public at the Tuesday night meeting. So
Well, I think
does that make sense
Yeah.
to everyone?
maybe we should get copies of the form maps that you have.
I've got 6 now, so.
Um,
I think we could choose 3 of them.
I think we could choose 3 of them.
Okay, this
We could
one,
vote on 3 of them and then have them sent out to us. That way we got something that we whittled down a little bit here.
okay, I don't think you need to vote,
No.
by the way. I think you
No,
can
but we
give
can just make
direction.
them.
Yeah,
I like the one that we're looking at right now.
I think this one is, it seems to me that there's consensus. This is the one that we modified based on Karen's suggestion over here. It does keep the city together, so that's an option where the city's together. It addresses what it seems to me to be the common thinking that Smith River stay as a boundary up here between districts 4 and 3. And then, it gives this kind of no man's land out here 2 representatives versus 1, which also seemed to be some consensus. So
Could you just go into 1 and 2 again, just to see what that looks like on this particular one?
on this particular one,
Yeah.
sure. So we see all of 1 here, and then 2 in this one comes up into what has traditionally been 4 here. But again, that's because this block ended up being huge.
And this is map 6.
This is map 6.
Mhm.
And the darker lines, so where the red lines are if you look at Washington and you can see the darker lines, yeah, that was the old, that was down El Dorado. Okay, that's what
Right.
they're talking about.
Yeah, this is the old District 1-2 boundary along here. And then the red here is the city boundary.
What is the little bit of, at the bottom left on the other side, on the very, at the ocean, there's that little piece is that like,
This is like,
That's Hall's
oh
Bluff.
no. This is
Shouldn't
the
that be in
the
what's that,
city or
Preston
not? I
Island?
mean,
That's Preston Island, yeah.
I know it is.
Nobody lives here,
Yeah.
so we could, I guess technically this should be in the city if we're going with that. Would cut Preston Island in half, but it wouldn't make a difference population wise.
I think it would be important to do that for the road, the little road that goes in there. I mean, who maintains that road, the city or county? Oh, the city line doesn't change. That's why it's so confusing anyway. Never mind.
Yeah, so if we made this city boundary, I don't know that it would make a difference on the
But that
road.
might be non-contiguous or,
Right,
Who
but
maintains it now?
it doesn't
don't
matter
know.
because no matter what we do, it's still going to be city or county. Yeah, so I really don't.
So I think bottom line, everybody likes this one enough to get a printout of it to look at more in the next few days. And, I don't mind sharing this with the public as a preliminary draft. I don't really want to have, I don't want to invite a ton of comments until we've actually chosen some drafts. So I'm going to still call this preliminary draft. If, I don't know if you want to have a couple others, if I can suggest a couple of others, I'd say maybe one, because it sticks most closely to the current.
is there one where the city is in both 1 and 2?
Yeah, so maps 1 and 3, this, no, maybe not.
I think 3 had it all in D1. That's
Yeah.
what I wrote down.
4. Maps 1 and 4 had the city split. So this one isn't as close as we can get to the current model, but presents a different option here.
Is that
But I
A
think
Street then? The
That's
that
A. Yep.
splits? And what was the original one? Or is that
It's
the
these
red?
little brown lines here. It's not very easy to see on this map. We can probably make it better.
So one side of A Street is 2, the other side is 1.
Uh-huh.
Can
Yeah,
we
so
look at the other districts on there? On this map?
the other districts, oh, you know
Oh, it's
what?
got that funky thing. Yeah.
This funky thing, yeah.
Can
I
you
wonder if
fix
we can
it?
Fix that
Leg.
too. Let's see if we can fix that because everybody seems to agree that that should be District 4 if possible. So let's try that. And it looks like it is.
Yeah. Still fits in the target range.
Yeah. So, let's just not spend too much time because we can, you guys can dig down and see if there's other areas just with a few examples, I think.
And this is, which map was this?
This is 4. And then let's look at one. I think that one's worth contemplating as well. Those would be my suggestions. Rachel, is that? That's unreasonable. 3, that's a kind of preliminary draft. So that we can come back on Tuesday. Okay. Yeah, I think that's what she was. Yeah.
For me, since I'm the only GIS person in the county,
Yeah.
Tuesday is going to be a real struggle for me to bring anything product wise forward because number one, I have a meeting at 4 o'clock on Tuesday.
Oh, you do have a meeting.
With the Water District Board.
Okay.
I don't even know if I'm going to be able to make this meeting.
Okay.
If I do, I'm going to guarantee it. If I make it all. I'll have somebody else running. But again, the other problem is I actually going to be in the office all day. That only gives me Monday and a little bit of time I'll be in the office Tuesday to get your 3 suggestions together in time.
Okay.
For you to have.
Oh, so this is,
It's putting a lot of.
this is a great idea that maybe isn't functional.
Well, no, I think it's.
You want to change the meeting?
Okay. I mean, I'm fine with that. I'd like to. Are you suggesting that we cancel Tuesday
No,
altogether?
I'm just giving you the heads up that basically if you come up with 3 things today that you want me to package up and have for you guys on Tuesday, you're giving, that only allows me all day Monday, and a little bit of Tuesday to try and do that. I can certainly get some of it. I just can't guarantee we get all of the packages together.
Okay, I
Well,
understand.
When do we think it would be possible to have them together and then maybe we could reschedule the meeting around that?
Yeah,
Well, for that, and again, I would prefer a little more lead time because I have a lot going on right now. In fact, I have a new project potentially starting with CTV as a Thursday, and I don't know how involved that's going to be. So if I could get at least a week.
okay. Let me suggest this. I would like to still meet on Tuesday.
Yeah.
But we may not be able to do what I've been suggesting, which is to quickly get you some PDFs of these to look at. And I apologize for that. My biggest complaint about this program is that it isn't easy to share these creations with people. So I think we should still meet again on Tuesday and think about, use this tool again if we want to. And then set another meeting for 5 or 6 days out from that, that still gives us enough time gives Rachel enough time to actually package the ones that we discuss.
So you're saying we won't even have anything before the meeting, before Tuesday, right? That's,
Well, you can actually, inside this software, you can actually immediately send out PDF reports. I mean, it'll generate it automatically. And so you can at least have those when you leave here. You can generate the PDFs of your individual scenarios, okay? And then we can email those out to you. But putting them on that is going to be a little bit more time consuming because I have to take this data out of this application and load it into another one in order to get it to that finished product. Okay.
Okay.
And-
But you can have basically a nice, very well laid out report from this and a very generic looking map of the lines and how you draw them. It just won't be as, you know,
Won't be that.
finished
fancy.
off.
Okay, I think that's fine.
So,
Go ahead, Denise.
Rachel, from my experience working with PDFs, I can zoom in on it as well once it's on. So if you could just send us that report and then we can kind of manipulate on our own screens to see it better.
Is this one you're looking at now one you're going to stick with? Because I can show you real quick what it'll look like when it generates a PDF.
Let's go to 6 because
Can-
that's one we all.
If you're doing this one, I do have some comments if we move
Okay.
forward on this.
Is it technical or is it?
Well, the coast shouldn't be I mean, if you have everything else of 2, there's a little piece, if you zoom in a little bit more. Yeah, there's that little piece there that,
Yeah, so this is a funny shaped block.
does it go all the
So if we
way?
want to make that D2 instead of D1,
Yeah. No, above.
yeah, it's all the same thing.
Oh,
I
I
think.
see. You're-
Yep, this is all one block. And so it's going to be funny no matter what we do.
That was one of the identified blocks that currently being split by our boundary as they are now.
Yeah.
Because like has been established, the census redraws these blocks every decennial census. They're going to change again. We're going to go through this process every 10 years.
Right.
So that was one of the most interesting changes they did.
Yeah, so we thought that this was closer to current than the other way around. But,
Yeah.
whatever you guys think, it is an oddly shaped block. So it looks. Do you like it better the other way? Like so. Okay,
That might make more sense because more of the coastline is in 2.
Well, and what was the population? I didn't, it switched so
It's
quickly, I
not
didn't
much.
catch it.
It's I think it's maybe 100 people or less. Oh,
So
it's
it's
like
even
20
less.
people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's not very many at all.
Okay.
So if visually this is,
And that's the district that has the only negative, I mean, less people.
Right. I like it going south. It just makes more sense to me.
okay, so we're gonna at least be able to get you guys computer generated. These 3 maps, 1, 4, and 6 are the ones that I think are,
Can I, because I am kind of representing tribal lands,
absolutely.
I would love to have something to take to people and ask, how do you feel about this?
Absolutely. We
So
can send you
5?
5, yeah. Sure, that sounds great. And we'll come back on Tuesday. I think Tuesday I can,
Okay, so this is the plan book inside the software. As you can see, it's a very generic looking drawing of whatever you guys designed. I can put things on it, like the scale bar, the north arrow, legend. It'll be very generic. It won't be a finished product, but it'll at least be something that we can do right now. We can generate this right now inside the software and send those out.
What do the,
And then you can see, and then it'll give you again, it'll give each district its own page, dedicated page, so that you can see each one a little closer.
but there's
Okay.
there's no
then-
streets or anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is just gonna give you, we can put the display map on there and you'll see how much of it you can see with the base map behind that fill. Now we can turn the fill off and you'll only see the lines, so that way you can see the streets better. There's not a lot of options inside this stuff. You just get a kind of a basic, like I said, some basic settings. So there's,
That's better.
so we can at least do that in the moment.
Mhm.
Until I can download your data and put it up in my other program and make a finished product. And then the other things we can do is, let me get out of this. There's also these reports. And if you want to see a report, you can choose what you want to see on that report. It's already got some variables over here. If you just want to see the totals added to it, that's fine. And then we can, do it in a PDF, an Excel, or an HTML document. I'm not going to email it because I don't think it's set up for that, but we can still do the PDF, download it and send it out. And I'll show you what that looks like. So that's with your PDF school, for at least the demographics, they'll lay it out like this, which at a glance, it's actually pretty informative.
Yeah.
And it's instant, so that's cool. So we can do that today at the end of each scenario you guys agree upon. We can just go in there and quickly do that. You guys
That'll
will
work.
have that to review over the next couple of days for the next meeting. And then once you say, yay or nay or vote or whatever it is you got to do as a commission, I don't know what you got to do, but anyway, once the data is actually in a place where you want to put it on product, then I'll take over at that point. But in the meantime, this is about as quick as we can get it to you.
Oh, that's fine. We only have 10 days before it has to be, get it on the agenda for the board.
Yeah, and honestly, that product is really the product I intend to put together for the board anyway. So this is probably best for you guys in the meantime to work with. And then when you settle on something, then I can get the board package together.
Yeah, I think that we should, my recommendation is that we try to stick to our schedule, which is get this information to you guys. Today you can digest it. We can come back on Tuesday, and the goal will still be to pick draft maps. That's what's been agendized, actually. I'll get that agenda out to you. And, keep in mind that the board is going to see this for the first time on the 9th. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to vote on it on the 9th. They may actually then put it on over to the next meeting, which is in December. But that gives a little bit of possibility that if they say, will you guys meet one more time and address some concerns that we have, there's some flexibility there in November. So that would be my recommendation. Let's try to get draft maps voted on Tuesday and get them out to the public.
I think this is plenty of information for us. The PDFs sent to us in a packet. I think we can work with that. I believe I can work with that.
Yeah,
Shouldn't speak for the group.
I do like this all district summary report, just to show you. It breaks each district down, which I think is super helpful. So each district will have its page. I think that's really informative. It gives you the population. It gives you the population over the voting population, the deviation, the percent, and then it gives you your demographic information underneath that, whatever you choose to want to see, because we can add more to it. You saw how many demographic fields there are. This is only half of them, or not even that. And then there are other reports as well. I just did the top two. There's also the voting population summary, the district geography summary, the district statistics, unassigned geography, which we do have some because, as you can see out here in the ocean, those are all blocks. Those are all records. Nobody lives there, but they're all blocks. Anyway, so that would be we can do that today.
Okay,
Get those out to you.
so we're going to send 4. 1, 4, 5, and 6.
So a question, please. I thought when we first met, we talked about the political party information.
Yeah, can't do that.
The VA
Okay.
is, so what was the VAP? That
Yeah.
was just voting.
Voting.
Okay. Got it.
The available people to vote or the actual registered voters?
Available.
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 Oh, thanks for
Yeah.
that clarification.
They're just
Okay.
18 plus. They're not
Got
necessarily
it.
okay.
registered.
Registered or got it. That makes more sense.
One question I've had looking at the data when the Census Bureau first released stuff back in August, that the county has basically remained static population wise, but has there been movement into any particular district area? New housing or whatever, planned housing? I mean, that's one of the things that should be supplied by the county is that what are their projections for, 5 years from now?
The actual data by the census shows that we went down. That we're actually in the negative as far as population over last census. And yes, there has been, I would say, if we're looking at it, there's been movement into town, because if you think about it, over the last 10 years, what have we seen occur? We've seen all those apartments over by Walmart. We've seen development in
Smith River.
but definitely that, just thinking of that section over there by Walmart, that's all new since the last one. And we have other areas where that has occurred as well. So to me, it looks like there's been migration inside the county, people coming closer into the city as opposed to moving outside. But again, the next census is going to show who knows what, because now out in Smith River, we've got that brand new track, right, along 101. All those homes have been within the last couple of years. The first one was built like 3 years ago. And now all the other ones have been over the last 12 months. So again, you're going to see some changes, but yeah, if you compare 2020 to 2010, technically our population went down, but the movement inside did adjust.
But there is-
It's a little dangerous trying to figure the future in that 5 years. My brother and I were thinking that our population 1970 was going to be 20,000. They projected at 20,000. And guess what? It was 14,000. So our projections were all out the window. The thing here, we've lost over 2,000 inmates that are in the total population, not in the count. But with that, you have a number of people, probably, I'm going to say 1,000 people that go with that loss of 2,000 inmates. So you've got that thing in our timber that we thought was going to start back in that area of the population. That hasn't happened. With the sale of Miller Redwood, they probably pushed out our logging to 2040. See, we thought it'd be about 20. We were going to have some more logging, but we haven't had any. Well, because, you lose 2,500 acres or 25,000 acres, that happens. So anyway.
But there is also the housing element report that's coming out that will address what you were talking about, development, because they have to project what that housing is going to be in all the different income levels. So I know that is coming up from the county, both the county and the city, and they are meeting publicly, or they have had meetings publicly regarding that as well. So
Let me just point out that Director Kunstler is zoomed into this meeting, so if you have any questions along those lines, she's probably better equipped to answer them than I am. But as far as the housing element, if that has generated any questions, like I said, she's online. She can also refer to the general plan and how that may impact things or what kind of influence it might have on that, but she is there.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind, we still have to make our maps based on what the population was in 2020.
Right, I mean, that,
Projections, fun and interesting topic. Great topic probably for one of the housing element discussions, and I know there's been some public ones. But for our purposes, these are the numbers we have, and we've got to stick within them. So do I
would like to adjourn until Tuesday.
Thank you.
Motion
Read her
to
mind.
adjourn until Tuesday at 6 p.m. here. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned.
Thank you,
See you
everyone.
guys
See
on
you
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
All right.
Oh, yes.
yes, I do.